Okay. Should we do some kitchen renovations? You wanna help me? This time you'll definitely help though, right?
Good boy. Welcome back to GoodBoiBuilds. On this exciting episode, we're going to get multiple smaller projects completed in the kitchen. I have to do drywall repair and repaint the ceilings. I need to repoint a rather large crack in the stone wall above the kitchen door and hallway. There's also a joist that is partially missing in the kitchen crawl space. That needs to be taken care of. And I want to put up a couple of shelves for added storage. And if you watch until the end, I'll show you what I did to this protruding stone in our kitchen wall. Fans of classic Disney will approve. So let's get to it. So first things first, one of our kitchen skylights leaked after a heavy storm. I cut out the drywall area affected and identified the general area of concern. After managing to repair the leak on top of the roof, I taped off the area until it was time to redo the drywall. One simple tip is to cut out the drywall area so it overlaps with the studs or rafters. That way you have something to reattach the new piece to. Otherwise you can insert some backing boards. Another tip is to cut the new drywall piece to general size, but slightly larger. Then trace the new piece onto the old drywall wall or ceiling and cut that for a more snug fit. I may have overdone that with the screws here as well. So once the piece is installed, I first filled in all the holes and built up the drywall mud, feathering the edges as I went along. The white wall here also could use some drywall repair, as over the years the cracks appeared and just general wear and tear. And a few more layers of drywall mud, lots of sanding, and covering my mistakes. And while I was at it, I also had to quickly repair the drywall holes the electricians left after installing this outlet between the oven and the range hood. This mesh tape is great for small repairs like this one, as it is quick to use and it holds onto the drywall well enough for you to mud everything. You could help me wash the ceiling? Yeah? Maybe next time. Okay, the ceiling is ready for paint. I'm not a big fan of painting, but I know that prepping the surfaces is a large part of the success. Taping off the corners as well as taking your time and cutting the walls and the hard to reach places are all key. Just before moving to the stone wall, I noticed that the area where the top cabinets met the wall had large holes that were formed either by sloppy installation, God knows when, or just from the years of use. Anyway, since the area is not visible, a quick solution is just to take some 1-inch stock, glue and nail it to the walls and call it a day.
Come!
Right, the fieldstone wall. A couple of large cracks down the wall here, just above the door and a bit to the right. So when we were first in the process of buying the house, this really stressed us out. as structural damage can be very costly to repair. But talking to a structural engineer, we were told that such cracks are common in such old houses, could just be age, house settling, etc. What we should really look out for is, of course, massive cracks, which this isn't, and crack lines that actually split the stones themselves. The latter is a sign of a huge amount of stress being in a particular area. The cracks we have just need to be repointed. Taking out the old mortar is a slow task, but luckily, much of it was already cracked on one side, making the removal less arduous. And here I'm shaping a couple of stones to insert into the crack, which is common practice to avoid having huge joints. So we decided to use type N cement with a ratio of 1 to 2.5 cement to masonry sand. Then added some concrete glue for easier bonding to stone surfaces, especially useful if the stone is a little dirty or not particularly rough or porous. And then finally, water. I started off using the masonry hawk and the tuck pointers, but the dry sandy-like texture of the mortar, the irregularity of the stones and the cracks, as well as my own experience, made this repointing job very cumbersome and dirty. Honestly, it was easier just to use my hands and fill the nooks and crannies. Having filled one, I proceeded to finish off the second one, spraying the stones down before applying the mortar with my hands like some kind of a pleb. Next it was time to do some shaping and clean up the stones as best as I could. Right, we're just punching through these tasks.
It's in the hole. Nope, not that interested. More interested in food.
Onto the joist repair. Welcome to our kitchen crawl space. It's rather spacious, as crawl spaces go, perhaps 4 feet at the highest point. So here's the missing joist. Of about 16 feet, 5 feet from the joist has been cut out near one end, and some dubious framing attached. I don't know what these are supposed to do exactly. Now, best practice here would be to sister a new joist to the cut one. Unfortunately, there's no way of getting a 16-foot joist into that crawl space, and it would be impossible to get it in place on account of all the pipes and wires. Nor would I want to. One mistake and I smashed the water pipe, or even worse, a gas pipe. So the solution here is to create some bracing that run perpendicular to the joists. The brace pieces will be attached to the 2 joists on each end of that cut joist. That puts additional weight on those 2 joists on either end, but these are rather wide and tall ones from old pine, and I think there shouldn't be any problems with floor deflection. We'll see, I guess. First I want to support one end of the joist with a hydraulic jack and a 4x4 post. I position the first bracing piece in place, being careful not to hit or drop anything on those pipes or wires. Next I need to cut the old bracing, or whatever this is. I found it easier to use some combination of the jigsaw, pull saw, the child's crowbar, and the hammer. And this brace is attached to all 3 joists for added support. Ooh, and I found some classic crawl space treasure. As I prepped the area for this job, I collected a bunch of rotten wood debris and well over a dozen of old broken glass bottles. The 2 I saved here are from the Frank Steel Brewing and Co., which was operational in the early 20th century. They made beer. The other one is Phillips Brothers Champion Bottling Works, operational from the late 19th century and into the mid-1930s. They made non-alcoholic beverages. I'm assuming that the boys were drinking on the job as they installed the water, gas, or electrical in the crawl space some time ago. It's nice and cool down there in the summer, so I can see the appeal. I left the old brace on this end since it seemed to be doing its job. Actually, I really didn't need to put the 2x10s as bracing here since the distance is less than 3 feet wide, I guess, but still. I could have used 2x6s, maybe even 2x4s, but better to be safe than those guys that cut this joist in the first place. And here we are. One less thing to stress about. Yes, it's nice to be back on the ground floor. So we have this really tall 1970s wood panel wall that we know will come back in style any day now. So we're keeping it, but we need more storage space. So it's time to put up a couple of shelves. Now I already put a couple of shelves here to keep Gnocchi's food and treats as well as some of the food storage. I'd like to match it as much as possible to the new shelves. But instead of building the shelves from new plywood, staining it and finishing it, I was going to use some pieces from our old IKEA bookshelves. I've gone through quite a bit of dimensional lumber, plywood, MDF for this renovation, and throughout plenty as well. It's just nice to try and reuse something. And if we hate it, I can always change it. So the first order of business is to run a laser level line and find where all the wall studs are. And it's pretty simple stuff. Putting the brackets in, testing out to make sure everything is more or less in line. Next I want to stain the shelves to match those other ones that I showed earlier. First I applied a wood conditioner for a more even stain. Then I used this Czar teak stain and wiped off the excess. Then it was time to put a few layers of wipe-on poly. Quite simple. Okay. Back up on the brackets, those go. A little bit of adjusting here and there, last minute checks, and it's time to screw everything in and chuck some stuff up there. Yes, here's that beer making kit I bought 8 years ago. Any day I'm gonna brew that amber ale. I better keep that kit. Okay, so you made it all the way to the end of the video, and I'd like to congratulate you and give you some bonus content. When I was first painting the ceiling, I saw this weirdly triangular shaped stone just sticking out of the wall for no reason. It reminded me of something, but I couldn't quite put my finger on it. But as I kept painting, it came to me, of course. It's the stone pillar from The Lion King where Rafiki presents Simba for the first time to the animals below. So, I had to leave a little Easter egg for the next owner to find. I found this model of Rafiki and Simba online for a few bucks and had some company 3D printed for me. Since the size of Rafiki is like 1/4 of an inch, the 3D company told me there's a strong likelihood that Rafiki's feet, tail, arms might be dismembered by the polishing process, where they shoot sand particles really fast at the figure to polish it up. I told them to just go ahead with it, and we did lose a little bit of the tail, but more crucially Simba himself. Still, I have a solution for that. I decided to try my hand at painting him with some borrowed paints from neighbors. I have not done this since I was a child. Disney, please don't sue me. I like your cartoons. I can afford the lawsuit. I've always just playing around. Lion King's better than Aladdin. Yep, I'm a regular Bobby Fingers over here. It came out a little monstrous around the face, but you know, give me a break. Okay, after finishing, it was time to reattach Simba to his rightful place in the arms of that weird monkey. A little bit of super glue did the trick. I thought using a seed of one of the main food staples would be an apt Simba, since we are in the kitchen. I pondered which staple would work best, corn, rice, but chose in the end the Regal Faro green. And here they are, majestic. And thank you again for watching. We have quite a few plans for this kitchen, which includes building a large storage unit for our mini fridge and freezer, making a proper kitchen island instead of using this desk as one, replacing this old washer and dryer and building a new cabinet for them, as well as a pull-out drawer right next in this corner here to maximize storage space. Also replacing the old limited countertops with a stone one, getting a new sink, and so on. Lots of work ahead. So again, please subscribe and hit the notification button, and thank you. And if you like this video, check out this fence building one here, or this 3-part stair renovation one.